Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm James and I'm still looking at this Saito 62. This is Saito FA-62 four-stroke engine that I have mounted on this Hangar 9 Piper Cub. And what's been going on, and I've had a playlist on this now, I was hoping to sort of put this issue to bed on my last video. And what's been happening is that about halfway through my flights, my engine cuts out. And this has been going on for a while. And what I decided to do is try to figure it out, kind of do some troubleshooting. So the plane runs great, the engine runs great when it's idling on the ground. It runs great when when it initially takes off and I'm flying it. I have no problem at all. But about halfway through the flight, where it's maybe about halfway through with my tank, I've been getting basically stalling out. So the first thing I did is, and I'll just do a quick recap because I do have several videos out on this and I don't want to bore everybody. There is a playlist that you can check out on this. But the first thing I did was look at the tank. So I was thinking, okay, what's happening is maybe as the fuel drops in the tank, actually here's the tank, as the fuel drops in the tank, maybe there was a hole in the one of the lines. And what happens is once that line got exposed, it starts sucking air, and then of course the engine will lean out and stall. And so that was the first thing I looked at, and it kind of made sense to me. I did some searching online. I got some suggestions from some of you viewers out there on this. So what I did is I pulled the tank out. I checked everything. I checked the lines. I checked the tank itself. I blew air, made sure everything was tight, and didn't find any leaks whatsoever. So to be safe, what I did is I just replaced it. I put a brand new tank and brand new lines on it just to be safe. Well, since I had the cowl off and everything kind of open, I decided to go ahead and just do kind of a run through and check everything. So I checked the glow plug. The glow plug looked a little bit faint to me, so I changed the glow plug. I moved on. I checked the valves. The valves were okay. They were a little bit loose, but I just go ahead and reset the valves. I did that. That was another video. And then I kind of put everything back together and I retuned the engine. I tuned the high and the low needle speed, the high speed and low speed needle. I adjusted those, and I thought everything was running like a top. And actually, there's a video short showing that kind of the engine running. I mean, it was running great. So I took it back out in the field, and I took it flying. And this was the last video in this little series. And I thought, man, I had to have solved it. Hope that was the problem. And lo and behold, it's up there flying. About halfway through, it stalls out again. So I started thinking, this obviously is a Piper Cub. It flies slow. I bought it because I wanted to fly slow. I didn't want to. I have other planes that are kind of sport planes and that are faster and such. I wanted something that I can kind of putt around in the sky with, and I always liked the Piper, so that's why I got this thing. But what I noticed was on one of the videos, and if you go back and you look at that short that I posted, you'll notice that as the plane stalls out, when it was heading down and it was banking, and it would just cut out. And I noticed I had a couple other video clips on board, which I don't think I've shown, but showed the same thing. It seems sort of like when the engine, kind of imagine it like this, basically if the tank was sort of pointing down a little bit, maybe banking, that's when it cut out, when it was moving slow. And that, that makes sense. If you have a half a tank or a quarter of a tank or something like that, and you're kind of moving slow, that fuel is going to slosh forward, obviously. If I'm moving faster with a sport plane or something like that, then obviously that everything else being equal, they probably have a higher chance that the fuel is continue to be pressed in the back of the tank, where the clunk will be sucking the fuel out. So after doing all this, and after having more another stall out there, I thought I would go ahead and test it. And that's what I did in that last video. Is I took the plane up and I just flew it faster. I flew it more aggressively. I was doing, kind of banking and going faster. And I didn't have, the engine did not cut out. And I did that a couple times. And so I came to the conclusion that what's going on is basically the fuel is sloshing forward when the plane is flying slow and it's cutting out. Now that's not unusual. I don't think that's tilting a gas tank forward and then exposing the clunk to air is going to cause your plane to cut out if it stays that way too long. Anyhow, that makes perfect sense. So I posted that last video, and I got a couple of you viewers pointed out to me, hey, you know what? Why don't you try a felt clunk? And I've heard of felt clunks before. I've just never used them. And I kind of looked into it, and I thought this was a good idea. That makes sense to me. And I do appreciate all you who commented on it. And I looked into it further, and like I said, I've never used them before, but I went and I purchased a few of them. So I guess the idea, I'll show you these in just a second. So, well, actually I'll show it to you now. So this is one of the ones I got. It's a felt clunk. You can kind of see it. I'll take it out of here. Let me pull it out of here real quick. And I got this one from Red Wing RC. So here it is right here. It's just the felt clunk. And the felt clunk is basically, I guess the other way you can kind of see these as being advertised or noted as being just filters. And you'll see these, if you're unfamiliar with these, I know a lot of you are, and that's because you told me about it. But if you're unfamiliar with these, like I was, you'll see that a lot of these are used also like in landscaping or gardening type equipment. Things like weed whackers and things have these felt clunks, and you can buy these kind of by the handful on places like Amazon.com or Amazon. Everybody knows Amazon.com, but Amazon or other websites, and they're sort of generic, and there's all kinds of them. And the one thing that I was having trouble with is it was hard for me to get some of the dimensions on them, because some of them can actually be pretty big. This one's a kind of sizable, really. I mean, it's a kind of a big one, but it will fit in the tank. So you can kind of see it'll fit in here. And like I said, I got this on Red Wing RC on their website, and they kind of gave the size that it would fit what I believed it would be for my engine. So I purchased one there. And let's see what else. I got another one here, and I'll cut this one out in a second. This one was actually from the Heli guys. This is a Goblin for a helicopter one, and it's a little bit smaller. And I got this one because it is a little bit smaller. And again, I wasn't sure when I was shopping for these, I wasn't sure exactly what size these were. So I did get two of those. And the more I read about them, sure, people are using these to help prevent from their engine cutting out during when the fuel is low. And also, I know there's people who fly 3D, and also the Heli guys are flying 3D. And I read more and more and more about how these felt clunks help prevent your engine from stalling out. So there's sort of like three things that these do from what I can tell. Obviously, first, it's a filter. So it'll filter out kind of sediment or whatever kind of contaminants, from getting into your engine. And then they're also, you'll see them kind of advertised for like anti-frothing or kind of foaming or bubbles in your tank. So what happens is, being a felt, kind of the felt filter, if you have bubbles, they will basically get broken down as they get sort of sucked into this filter fabric. So it sort of breaks down the bubbles, and that helps prevent kind of that issue. Obviously, if you have a lot of frothing or bubbles in your tank, then that's going to lean out your mixture, and that could possibly cause your engine to stall. And then the other thing that they are for, and this is why I got this, and why people recommended this to me, is that the filter is going to absorb a certain amount of fuel, and it's going to act like a little reservoir. So what's going to happen is, as this thing's flopping around in here, if you do have a situation where it goes upside down and there's no more fuel, it's not soaked in the fuel, or I guess I should say submerged in the fuel, there's a little bit of leeway. There's sort of like this little gap, like almost like a window of time you have by pulling fuel directly out of the filter. And then hopefully by the time, if it goes on too long, hopefully by the time this thing flops back into the fuel, you didn't stall out, and then of course it absorbs the fuel again. So a lot of people swear by them, so I'm going to give it a go. I don't really know what else I could do at this point. So I've kind of made a whole full circle here. I'm back to the drawing board and going back to looking at the tank, and I'm going to install one of these felt clunks. So now I'm going to take this apart. I got to take all this stuff off of here, and we'll go from there. And yeah, so I guess that's about it. So this is one of my rare sort of like personal appearance videos. I don't like to film myself too much. I don't like to record myself too much, and I figure people would rather see the planes and everything and not my big head. Okay, so let me move the camera a little bit, and what I'm going to do is pull all this stuff off of here, and then I'm going to reinstall, actually going to reinstall my older tank because it's bigger, and I'm going to put a clunk on it and see how it goes. Okay, well hopefully my light is okay. All right, so again, this is the one that I got from Red Wing, and again, it does fit in my fuel tank. So I'm thinking I'm actually going to go with this one. It's actually pretty heavy, and I'm hoping it's going to stay down here in the bottom of the tank. Now the other one that I have is the Goblin. Let me pull this one out of here. Now the Goblin one's kind of cool because it comes with a couple fuel lines, and it says nitro, so I'm assuming it is nitro. It'll work with glow fuel, and so it comes with 2 lines. I don't know if I'll use those if I was using this one. Then again, it comes with 2 smaller filters, and then this little brass clunk. Let me pull this out of here if I can. That's a small little bag. Yeah, so there you go. It's kind of nice. It's smaller, and I guess this will go right on here like this. Makes sense. So yeah, you can see the difference between this one from Goblin and this bigger one here. So definitely heavier. So one thing that I was kind of concerned about, or that I am concerned about, is that these, obviously the fuel has to be sucked through the filter, and that's going to give a little bit of resistance. No matter how you cut it, it is going to have a little bit of resistance to it. So the engine's going to have to work a little bit harder to get the fuel through this thing. And what I want to do is I'm just going to put a line on here, and I want to just draw through this thing. I'm not going to show you my face, but yeah. Yeah, so this right here is, actually that thing didn't have hardly any resistance. So that's pretty good. Let me check this bigger one here. Yeah, I'm just kind of concerned that it would just be too hard to suck through these things, but I guess they work just fine. Now there is, you do have to watch out, from what I've seen, is that these things do get sort of gummed up. And obviously if you have a tank and it's sitting too long, and the volatiles out of the fuel sort of evaporate out and leave behind sort of the oil, then this thing's going to get pretty gummed up. And you're either going to have to clean it or replace it. And these are pretty cheap. I forget how much these were. They weren't too bad, these generic ones. They're around $3 or $4 a piece, maybe $5 a piece. So let me check this one. Yeah. Anyhow, so yeah, this thing actually, they don't have much resistance at all, so that's good. All right, so I think I'm gonna go with this bigger one, just because of the fact that it is bigger and it's gonna have more fuel in here. I did notice that some of these have, they're winged, and they have felt, sort of these like 2 felt strips coming off of them, but those ones looked a lot bigger. So I think that those are used more for like the giant scale airplanes and such. But in any case, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this thing apart and get the tank out and replumb it with this bigger clunk here, this felt clunk. All right, well, first things first, I'm going to pull, actually I can pull out my high-speed needle. I'm really getting tired of taking this thing apart, so this is going to be about it for me. If this doesn't work, then I'm just going to have to fly, kind of estimate where my tank is halfway full, then land it. Here's my needle valve. Let me pull this off of here. This is a Harry Higley safety hub, or whatever they're called. This is nice. I really like these. This is aluminum. And here's a little lock nut. Really finishes off the front nicely. Okay. One thing I recognized is that I'm learning a lot from all of you. I know that I'm on here kind of showing things and sharing things, and some people are learning some things from me, but I'm actually learning a whole bunch from everybody else. So this has been really great. It's been really fun for me to do this channel, and hopefully it's been fun for you also. But yeah, thanks a lot, everybody who's kind of making your suggestions. I really appreciate everything. Let's see if we can pull this off here. Okay. Okay, well, one thing I've done about 10,000 times is if I snapped off, oops, there it goes. I snapped off these little wood, you know, it's kind of like a scale feature, these little wood supports that kind of go in the cockpit there. I just dropped it. Let me go get it. All right, here we go. Yeah, I think I don't know, I guess I didn't learn my lesson. I actually put a little piece of wood here to help me protect from doing that, but I keep doing it. Every time I jam my finger in here, I snap that thing off. So I'm gonna have to get the CA out of it again. Okay, so I got the tank back out now, and I'm gonna clean it off. I'm gonna pull out, well, actually, yeah, I'm gonna use these lines again, and I'm gonna use this original tank. So this tank here is an 11 ounce. It says 11 ounces. This one's an 8 ounce. They look pretty darn close to each other. I'm not sure if I believe this one's 11 ounces, but it says it is. But I'm gonna put that one back in. Now, one thing I did want to note is also somebody suggested that maybe I should kind of tilt the fuel tank back a little bit, not this much, but a little bit that way, and that'll help keep the fuel kind of toward the back of the tank. You know, I'm flying slow, and again, I don't really mind if it's tilted back a little bit. It probably is not going to hurt it. So I think I may be able, I don't think I have enough room to do that in here unless I do like a major kind of cutout down inside behind here, behind the firewall. And I think I'm going to avoid that right now. But thanks for that suggestion. That is a good idea. So I'm going to see if this felt clunk works, and if this doesn't work, then maybe I will try looking into tilting the tank back a little bit. For now, I'm going to just leave it as it is. Okay, well, since these tanks are about the same length, this one's a little bit longer, I'm going to use this same setup. I'm not going to change this too much. In fact, if I put it like this, you can kind of see I have a pretty good, the lengths are pretty good. This is the fuel, this goes to the carb, and this was the refiller, and this is my vent, which I'm going to have to change. It's kind of bent when I was taking it out. So one thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to make it so that the bottom, I'm going to arrange it so that the bottom line is going to be my fuel intake, instead of having it kind of off to the side. So what I will do now is I'm going to take this one off of here, this clunk, and I'm going to put this clunk. I think it's going to be too long, so let me put it, because this is such a, so yeah, that'll be too long. You can kind of see that. So I'm going to cut that. I'm going to cut this guy about, kind of eyeballing it, but I'll go right there. Okay. I'll throw this guy on here, and I'll probably have to move my fuel filling line back a little bit so it doesn't kind of get in the way. Boy, that thing is big, isn't it? Okay. Let me cut this off of here. I'm not too concerned with the line filling the tank. Okay, so it'll be something like that in there. Kind of like that. All right, so now if I put this like that, okay, I'm gonna do a little test run here if I can get it all in here. And I'm gonna have to keep things straight where I'm going with it, but I'm just gonna pop it in here. That. And you probably can see it. It's right there. Oops, let me go down here. It's right there. And back there. So it's not going all the way back, but that's a pretty darn big clunk. I guess I can kind of push it back a little bit more. Okay. Again, putting a tank together is always kind of a trial and error process. You have to take it in and out and check it. Okay, so now I'm going to rebend my tube so that it goes up in the right spot. All right, so here's my setup. It's going to go, hopefully you can kind of see this. It looks kind of weird. I'm going to give like a profile. So it's going to be sort of like this in the tank. That makes sense, something like that. So hopefully this guy's moving around like that in there, and then this is the filling line, which is kind of in the way. I don't know. I put a different hose on here or different lines. It's a little more flexible, so it kind of hangs down more. So maybe something like that. It's kind of be how it's looking. I know it's kind of weird looking at it, but and then I got my vent up here. So if I drop this in here, I'm going to have to turn my vent once it's my vent tube once I get it in here. So it should go like that. I can turn this guy. All right, again, one thing I like to do is either with a piece of tape or on the back somewhere on the tank, I like to draw a little diagram of my fuel lines, the way they, I don't know if you can see that or not. It's a little happy face. And this will probably rub off eventually, but I like to draw my orientation so I know when I'm kind of setting up the plane, I don't forget. So this is my carburetor, this is my muffler, and this is my fill, like that. So I'll put those on there. So I know when I'm looking at this, when I'm looking at that, that's going to give me my little guide so I don't mess it up, hopefully. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get this set inside here and then move on. All right, then also to help me look kind of where the things are in the tank, I like to use a flashlight. This one's kind of bright, but I can kind of see where things end up, especially the vent tube. It's probably hard to see it. I don't know if you can pick that up or not, but it's, probably not. But it's right there. I can kind of see it and I can adjust it. I had to turn it right, so it's right about there. Okay, that should be good. All right, so I'll go ahead and tighten this down, and hopefully we'll be good to go to set it up in the plane. Always want to hold this down while you're tightening, because otherwise you can have a tendency to turn the whole thing and then you got to readjust everything. Looks like we're on track here. Okay, very good. All right, so I think I got it good here. So let me go ahead, and what I'll do is I'll seal off 2 lines with a little piece of scrap tubing. I'll do 2 on here. That. And then I'll take another piece of scrap tubing, put it on here, and I will blow in this and make sure that I have a nice seal. Yep, very good. It kind of blows up like a balloon. All right, so I got a nice seal there and I'm good to go. Needle valve back in. So I guess this whole kind of fiasco I've been having with this tank and the engine is probably a really good example why a lot of people like to fly electric. And I understand that for sure. I think for me this is kind of one of the reasons why I like gas, or I should say glow fuel or running engines is because I kind of like that kind of messing with it. So boy, but yeah, times like this it gets a little annoying. Okay, so I think I'm good. I gotta secure the tank and I have to glue this thing back in. Whew. All right, well that's everything kind of put back and ready to go. And let's see here, so change the pilot out, different dude. And then there's the tank back in there. Hopefully you can kind of see that. I'm not sure if it's in focus or not. Fixed my little bar there, whatever that is, that little support. And yeah, ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this out in the field. I'm gonna try to get out there this weekend and give it a try and hopefully report back, and hopefully this is successful. Okay, well that's gonna be about it for this video. And I was hoping I was going to be able to get to doing some test flights and showing the footage of the test flights using the new felt clunk that I installed, which I did this last weekend. But I'm about 30 minutes long in this video, and that's about the capacity I have with my equipment that I'm using from a practical standpoint. If I start getting above 30 minutes in these videos, it gets more difficult for me to actually produce them. So I'm going to try to keep, I always try to keep my videos less than 30 minutes because of that. If I actually continue with this channel, which I hope to do, I hope to invest in some better equipment so I can kind of make the production a little bit better. So in any case, like I said, I did take this out in the field to the flight field this last weekend, and I did some test flights with the new felt clunk, and I got some footage of that. And I will say that I was pleasantly surprised with how it performed, and really, really happy. So I hope to share some of that with you. I will be sharing that with you in the next video in this series. And one thing to note is I did have a little mishap out there, and I'm going to show a video of that. I don't want to kind of get into details here, but I did have a little mishap with the Piper. It had nothing to do with the felt clunk, had nothing to do with the tank or the engine. It had to do with me, had pilot error. But things kind of turned out okay, so that's going to be in the next video to check that out. All right, so that's it, and stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.